Hello, welcome to Celebrate Southern Africa. My name is Dawn Denton, and today I have a guest that's sitting in a very warm Joburg, Charni Battams. And welcome because I'm very excited to chat to you about movement because I know we don't move enough, and I know that it's had an amazing impact on my life over the years. And I'm very excited. So tell us, is it nice and hot in Joburg?
It's a little too hot. I'm not going to lie. We have 31 degrees and we have literally essentially just started our spring, but it is beautiful. I can't, it's stunning. So can't complain. But no, it's warm, it's beautiful. It's a typical South African day.
Fantastic. And we are very jealous because we've had very cold weather in the last couple of days here in the UK. But we've got some autumn, well, late summer weather next week, so we're looking forward to that. But
Nice.
that's the thing with exercise. When the weather's good, we
Yeah.
tend to go out more, don't we? We go for walks. We might, I don't know, walk to the shops or something. We'll do more exercise because it's nicer outside. But the
Uh,
problem that we've got these days is that we aren't going, well, we're not exercising enough. And
yes.
you work with people of all ages, but specifically demographically older women. Is that correct?
The 50 broken and beyond is how I like to describe them. My golden oldies that have lots of challenges for us to work around.
So tell me about your journey in exercise. You would have grown up in a South African school, and I know we went to the same primary school, which sport was
Yes.
always celebrated at
Yeah.
primary school. So tell me about your sporting journey and your exercise journey.
So it's very interesting, actually. Primary school, I was sporty. Cross country was my vibe. I loved it. Then I was also into athletics and swimming. We got the girls on the boys' cricket team for the first time ever the year that I was there as well. It was very short-lived, but we still managed to get in there very, very briefly. And then when I left primary school, I actually didn't do any movement. I went to like a homeschooling system, British International Distance College vibe, and the school just didn't have any sports. So that's where it kind of ended for me. But then I started dating somebody who was into archery, a bit more seriously into archery. And while we were dating, he started his own archery company. And then when I was finished at the school, I worked there briefly as an assistant. And then he was like, well, why don't you come start working for me? And it was just in the office doing basic admin work. I was literally the beginning was taking information off of indemnity forms and putting it into an Excel sheet. That is how baby the business was. And I just grew into the office manager and I was dealing with all the clients. And then one of our coaches was immigrating to Scotland. And I had already started doing archery at that point, so I had an understanding of it. So I became an archery coach as well. And then I didn't want to do the office work anymore. So I moved out of the office work and just into the coaching, where I was coaching kids and adults. And that's where my ability to teach people how to move their bodies started developing, because you have to be in a very specific position in order to have an effective shot. And once your body is slightly out of that alignment, then you can start whacking your arm with the string. Your arrow will start flying in different directions. So it was all about trying to get all these different bodies with limitations, the hunched shoulders, the over the desks kind of vibe, into a bit more upright,
Let me
open.
sit properly now that you say that.
Nothing like a little reminder.
I think
Um,
I need to get you to sit in my office more so that you can
yes,
remind me.
I can be the little comma on your shoulder saying hello.
Yep, that's it.
So that's where I started getting into teaching people's bodies. Then we weren't sure if we are going to be able to maintain or at least keep the premises the archery range was on. So it was time for me to look at additional skills to develop in case that happened. And I wanted something that would align with archery. So if we kept the premises, then I could still use the archery to actually better my client's technique and form. And that's where Pilates came into the equation. One of our very close members, she was like, no, you have to go through BASI for your course. They are absolutely superb and sought after instructors. So BASI is Body Arts Science International. Um, South African founder, but now the whole main studio is based in the US. and they've gone completely global, and they're absolutely epic. So I then ended up doing my first comprehensive course through them, doing all of the equipment and the mat orientated stuff. But I just found that I didn't have enough more basic, simple things for bodies that were a bit more, with a bit more ailments. Sorry, movement that was more suitable for bodies that had a bit more ailments. A lot of the beginner exercises with Bassi, you need to have already well, number one, you have to be able to get down on the mat, and then you
Yeah.
have to have a body that can still do some movements with no limitations. So that's when I found Body Control Pilates. They are UK based, and they have a mat beginner level 1 and level 2. So I signed up for their level 1 because it has exercises that have digressed below the Bassi baseline.
Basic, yeah. So basically, you would have started out with people who, like me, could walk into a studio, could do some exercises, and
Yeah,
slowly just grow, and core strength and that kind of thing, and arms, and then those positions and movement then becomes a little bit easier as
yeah.
I progress. So focusing on different body parts. But I
Mhm.
think you're right. There were a lot of people. So like me, I trained as a PE teacher.
Yeah,
I played lots of sport in primary school. I played lots in high school. And I played a range of different things, which is also the great thing about, sport in South Africa and going to school in South Africa, because you can play, loads of different things. You aren't channeled very young into specific
yeah.
sports. So it was tennis, it was hockey, it was netball, it was swimming, athletics, cross country. I used to run over that hill. Did they still
Yes,
run? Did you run over that hill?
yes.
What was it? What copy is that?
No, I don't actually remember the name of it. My memory is
I
not
know, but
that
I
good.
yeah, I ran that as well. Someone contacted me recently and said, "Oh, Dawn, I remember you used to run cross country over that copy." And I was like, "Okay, I don't remember that, but you clearly do." Um,
Yes.
but then you get into adulthood and other things take over, and it's not as easy to start being. You have to put money aside, you have to put time aside, and I
Yeah,
think as we get older, you realize, oh, this is now going to impact my old age if
yeah.
I don't do something now.
It becomes a
And
necessity.
yeah, and so for me now, during well, coming out of the pandemic, I went back to tennis. And again, because I was a bit ill about 6 months ago, I haven't been back. And so
Mm,
now I consciously have to say, okay, I've got to now clear my diary, and that has to be my time. So you
yeah.
are working with a group of women who possibly have got rid of all of those desires and think they don't like it, and get
Mm.
them motivated to say, well, this is going to have an impact on your life today, but also moving into your old age. And Pilates is the thing that you found. Why specifically is Pilates the one that you fell in love with, and maybe not yoga or one of the other type of movements?
So Pilates is a form of movement that is also used a lot in rehab. So you find a lot of physios and bios actually go and do Pilates courses as well, because their degrees teach them more about how the body works, but not how to perform the exercises effectively. And then a Pilates course sort of adds that onto the equation. So with Pilates, you learn how to work the small intrinsic muscles deep inside your joints, which actually brings in a lot more stability to the joints. Whereas, like if you go to the gym and those sort of things, then you working more of the bigger global muscles, the biceps, the quads, the glutes, all of those kind of things. And when you don't work the intrinsic muscles, that's when you start getting injuries. So the little intrinsic muscles really keep everything together. You also taught very much a mind-body connection. So you're not going in and just using momentum. You taking your time to feel that the correct, appropriate muscles are being activated, because you can get sequencing of for the, what do you call it now? Muscles firing sequences. No, it's not coming out my mouth right, but the order in what the muscles are engaging. You need to have them engage in a specific order when you
Okay.
perform exercises. And sometimes we will have that misfire and you'll start engaging the second muscle instead of the first muscle. Whereas
Ah.
Pilates really refines that. So you make sure the targeted muscles are the ones doing the work and you don't have that compensation coming into play. And then it also teaches you movement in the form of disassociation. So if I'm doing an arm circle, I'm disassociating the movement of the arm and the shoulder from the rib cage. I'm not letting the whole rib cage move with it. So I am stabilizing here while moving there. So you get a lot of a stabilization versus range of motion. So you're not going so big that everything moves. Your range, your stabilization will determine how wide that circle goes, because then I'm targeting all of the shoulder muscles instead of when I'm using everything, then I'm targeting abdominals, the whole shebang. So you really start getting a bit more specific about how you're working, what you're working, bringing in lots of stability, all of that intrinsic work, deep intrinsic work. And of course, Pilates is always known for its core development 101, even though there's so much more to Pilates than just core. But yeah, that's oh, my core is weak, go to Pilates.
So is the hope then that once you become a little bit more in tune with your body and how to move it, that you start moving it in everyday life in a different way? Would that be an outcome?
Absolutely. I've even got a client now who has improved so much more of her ailments just because she's more conscious of how she's moving around in her day now. When she's standing and talking to somebody, she's realizing when she's sort of hanging in the pelvis and loading the lower back, and then she'll automatically shift her weight and upright and the core takes over. When she was busy doing an arm workout, she just elevated the chest a little bit and she got out of the neck. So now when she's working at her computer and she feels it in the neck again, she'll instantly, oh, pop up. Voila. So it's about taking it into your day 100%. And it does happen because I also like to educate my people about their bodies while we're moving together, because I find the more they understand about their bodies, the more invested they are in it. So I'm
Yeah.
not talking about a general body information. So if you and I were doing a lesson and you were having an issue, we'd break it down. I would show you what the muscles are so you can have an understanding of which muscles we're talking about, how they work, what movement in your day that you're doing on a regular basis could be triggering that. Are you using your mouse all the time with the right side so that shoulder is elevated, which is tightening this muscle into here, into there? And then you've got that picture. Suddenly when you're busy there, you're like, oh, I would drop my shoulder. So it links beautifully.
Oh, I love that. I think that's so brilliant. So you now are focusing really on growing your business. So you teach within your own business. Is that the only kind of teaching that you do? Do you go to premises or do you go to people's homes? What kind of thing do you do?
So I do both online and I'll come and teach you in the comfort of your own home. A studio is a down the line vision of mine, but for now I'll come to the comfort of your own home because it also helps to keep the kind of people that I'm working with committed.
Yeah.
If they had to leave their house to come through to me, I would get a lot of cancellations, especially on the days that they're not feeling good or something's feeling a bit painful. And then the online just makes it even more accessible to, I've got a lady in Wakkerstrom in the middle of nowhere. I have a few ladies in Cape Town. I've got a couple of ladies in the UK. And we've all come together on my Zoom online classes and we've created a cute little community and we'll do a little chit chat before class. And, if somebody's having a rough day, feeling sore here, everybody shows their concern because they understand how challenging it is to have a niggly pain that's just incessant and frustrating sometimes. So we sort of pick each other up a bit and joke around. Yeah.
And then we also get to live with the pain, and then it just becomes a part of our being, which is
Yeah.
not right, but we
Yes.
just get used to it. And then when you suddenly can treat it, you go, wow, I've missed out on this for
Yeah.
years sometimes, because I've just lived with the pain and I've lived in permanent frustration and probably stress and anxiety around that pain. So now trying to teach you online, that must be quite tricky. What skills do you think you need to be able to teach online? Because that's really amazing.
You know what? I think it's also my teaching style is I've always loved teaching in detail. So in lockdown, I posted a 20-minute video every day on Facebook for people to do. And I wanted absolute beginners who didn't know Pilates how to do it without having to ask questions. So I explained everything and anything that I thought of or have heard of being questioned in classes by people starting for the first time. I will also go into detail about what you should be feeling. Sometimes we just get told, oh, lift the arm up, lower the arm down, make sure the shoulder is out of the ear. But then you get people who are here and it's like, no, but you got to drop the shoulder. They're like, but I am. And it's like, no, okay, hold on, let's come down. Now lift your shoulder, drop your shoulder. Can you feel that connection here? And I'll show them where they should be feeling it. Now keep that as you're lifting, and then suddenly the shoulder is out of the ear. So if they understand what they're feeling and you just find ways around being able to get their brain to sort of connect. And then I also wanted people to be able to watch those videos without having to look at the screen. Let me use an appropriate word, find it very frustrating when I'm doing a session, I'm following a YouTube video, and I keep having to turn my head to see what's going on. And then it's just, I don't enjoy it. It
Yeah.
breaks the session. It feels frustrating. So I wanted to be able to provide online sessions where people could follow just by listening to what I'm saying. And I had the whole sort of thing of where I wanted blind people to be able to do the session as well. Have an online session where they could follow along 99% of the time, because it's not perfect, so I can't explain absolutely everything. And then I do have a very good attention to detail with my eyes. I love watching how people's bodies move. And I've learned to also see, okay, cool. When this is moving here, then it means that is moving over there. So if the knee is moving forward, that means that the hip is moving forward. I may not be able to see the hip clearly, but the
But you'll
body's
know.
connected. Yeah, the body's all connected. So when it sort of trails through. So I really keep an eye out. I get a lot of compliments about how well I can actually teach, how much detail I can focus on. And they honestly didn't expect it. And they thought it was just going to be another online class like all the other online classes. So, I mean, even after lockdown, I've got eight 40-minute online Zoom classes. 4 are chair-based for my ladies that can't get down on the floor, and 4 are mat-based. And I, on average, have 5 people joining each of those classes, 8 different classes a week, so it can still be done. It does still have value in it. It's just now about me educating people the benefits that you can get out of it, because unfortunately a lot of the experiences have been it's not that detailed, they can't see what's going on, so on and so forth, but you actually can if you put the effort in.
Absolutely. It's like with anything. But
Yeah.
I'm just also curious about, at what point do people come to you? Do people come to you when they've now that breaking point, or do you have people who say, I haven't exercised for a while, this would be a really good idea. Let me give Shani a call. So at what point do you find people tend to come to you?
Mostly breaking point. Mostly breaking point. It's that point in their life where they can't do things now.
Yeah.
I've had a couple of ladies who have been scared of traveling, and they've got family in the UK or family in Canada, and they've literally avoided going and visiting
Wow.
family because they're too scared, because they don't know if they'll be able to walk the airport. That is it. They just don't know if they'll be able to walk the airport. I got one lady up and running where she was like, oh no, I think I need to buy one of those walking sticks that turn into a chair so I can sit on it. What do you think? And I said, well, there's 2 things here. Number one, for your state of mind to be eased, yes, take it. But in the same breath, I want us to do as much as we can before you leave, so that you
Yeah.
don't feel like you need it. Because if you feel like you need it, you're going to use it even when you don't need it.
Yeah.
And she bought it and it broke right before she left, and she didn't even need it once.
Well,
And
that's really interesting, because when I went skiing for the first time, the ski instructor said to me, we have to get rid of the poles, the ski poles. And I was like, what? But I never needed them because of the training and the process. So
exactly.
it's one of those things that we do mentally become quite attached to something.
Yeah.
Um, And also, what I find really interesting about that is that we are prepared as human beings
Mm,
to sacrifice what
mm.
makes us really happy before we actually take action on our bodies. So her life would be very different if she could just get on the plane and not have to think about her body and her mobility and all of those things. But we
Yeah.
limit ourselves because we're so concerned about our, but we've left it to that point. That's the other thing. Why, as human beings, do we leave it to that point?
Well, I mean, we don't value ourselves as much as
Yeah,
what we should, number one. I think a lot of the companies, unfortunately, in the world today expect you to sacrifice everything and anything for the business, and they don't make space for you to take care of yourself.
yeah,
That's why, I mean, I've got a corporate company that I go to, and I go there twice a week. And luckily, one of the ladies is a big HR lady there. She's one of the people that started with the company. And she was like, meetings will be scheduled around Pilates because we need this Pilates, not only for physically, but for mentally. Because it ends up becoming like a group therapy session as well, where
yeah.
the things that have just been frustrating them that day, I'm like, bring it, let it out. We got the BITCH faces that walk in the door, and we've got the happy faces that walk out the door. Like they come in so wound up. And, companies just, it would be wonderful if companies took more care of their people. And also, why would we want to do something we don't enjoy doing when we already feel like crap? So
Mm,
that's also why with my chair classes, it's not high intensity, it's mobility, it's core connection. The amount of ladies that have come into those classes who hate exercise, and I'm using the word hate because that is the word straight out of their mouths,
mm,
committed to my classes. They don't feel like they have to hurt afterwards. I mean, they've tried all sorts of other forms of movement for the elderly, and they still get pushed too hard in those classes. They
mm,
sore for days afterwards. They don't want to go to physios because the physios hurt, and then they come to my classes. They finish feeling better, and that's what it's about. My people will always finish feeling better than what they did coming into the session. So I also teach the humans I have in the class on the day. So that's why I do my check-ins. It's important to understand where they're at physically and mentally. I've got a client, she's old and she lost her beloved dog, so she's very, very heart sore. Everybody in the group sent their love. But then when we start class, I'm not like, oh, I'm so sorry. And we have the whole conversation and bring her down. I'm like, I understand you're not doing well, but is the body okay today? Yes, it's fine. Okay, cool. Let's get you moving. And then it's not having to relive it all because she's been speaking about it to everybody all the time. And then she left the class feeling a little bit lighter afterwards. I had one lady come in. She started with me. I think she's been with me for less than a month, literally less than a month. She started September and pains all over. She's got conditions from head to toe. And she had the biggest smile on her face this morning because she said, this morning, for the first time, I woke up pain free. And
oh,
that's all
wow.
it's about, just
Wow.
being pain free. That's it. And what more could you ask for? It's just improving their quality of life. And that's what I'm about.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the simple things that can have the hugest impact, as you know, because if you're working on those little muscles, those primary muscles that make the movement and that support the movement, you're not going to injure, you're not going to put pressure on the wrong muscles and the wrong bones, and all of that stuff. So I think that's absolutely brilliant. And
Yeah.
I think you've got a movement here, a movement, ha, as in movement. But I think just to be able to reach people globally is a wonderful opportunity because you can now grow a community around movement and also, like you say, focusing on people who are older, who might have forgotten about exercise and now are facing and dealing with some consequences. So tell us how we can get a hold of you, Charni. Like, where can people get in touch with you, find out more about your classes, and come and try one of the online classes if they are abroad?
Wonderful. So I am all over the place. If you want to see a bit more of my chair orientated stuff, I've also geared that towards people that sit at their desks all day because it really filters in quite nicely between the
Yeah.
two. So on my TikTok, Unique Movement ZA.
Okay.
My Instagram is more my fun time place. So you'll see me messing around on the large equipment. That's unique movement with an S on the end. So it's plural. Then I've got my Facebook page, which is just unique movement. And that's where I just post a bit more about what I'm doing, like if I'm doing pop-up classes. So sometimes I'll do a pop-up online class or a pop-up outdoor in-person class, just throw one out every now and then to get people together. So the Facebook page is more about where the news vibes take place. And then I have my website, Unique Movement, and my WhatsApp. Yeah.
Wow. So we could find you pretty much everywhere. And if you're in the Antarctic, I'm sure you could also do a class as long as you've got Wi-Fi.
And a
You could
chair or
do
a
a
floor, just a floor.
just a piece of just a floor and a chair and a space and a camera and a computer, which we all have, and we all have phones and stuff, so we can make it work irrespective of where we are in the world, which is brilliant. And so how often, just before we go, how often do you run your online classes? Because that would be really useful for people to know as well.
So I can verbalize the schedule very, very quickly. Monday, 4:30 p.m. This is all South African time,
Yeah.
GMT +2 or CEST Central Europe time. So Monday, 4:30 p.m. for chair, 6:30 p.m. for mat. Tuesday, 7:30 a.m. for chair, 8:30 a.m. for mat. A colleague of mine runs those sessions. She's got a physio background. She is a Pilates instructor in those classes, though, but she's got some amazing knowledge behind her. Then Wednesday, I do the chair at 5:30 p.m. and the mat at 6:30 p.m. And Thursday, just mat at 8:30 a.m. and just chair on a Friday at 7:20 a.m. I did say 20, it is correct.
That's amazing. Those extra 10 minutes could make a huge difference, or the lack of the 10 minutes could make a big difference as well. But
Yeah.
Shani, it's really great to chat with you, and I just hope that there are, women my age and older who are starting to feel that they might need to be doing a little bit more. And you've made it so convenient, because also I know that a lot of women, the confidence to go to a class is really a big deal as well. If they haven't moved for a long time, they're going to think everyone's got leg warmers and leotards, and they're not going to go. So I think it's wonderful that you created the space for people to feel confident with their bodies, whether it's one-on-one or whether it's on online, which I think is brilliant. And I think you've done amazing things. And I know I have heard other people rave about the work that you do. So I know that you are brilliant. So anyone who wants to get in touch with Shani, please do Unique Movement everywhere. And yeah, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for the time, and I appreciate you having me on.
And happy moving, everyone.
Happy moving.